What's up, everybody? Rusty Buckets, the Two Buck Sports Show here with your Bucks 2 cents. I am a co-host on one of the shows on this network, but by my day job, I am a doctor of physical therapy. I have been for 11 years now. Went to undergrad at Mississippi State, grad school here in Memphis. Been working in and around sports rehab for most of my career, working with barbell athletes and football, basketball players. So I've seen a lot of the injuries that we're seeing from this Memphis Grizzlies team in my career, and I'm here to help kind of calm some of the nerves, talk some of you off of a cliff of what we've seen so far with the injuries. You know, we've had a rash of them, and we're all really gun shy. We still have PTSD from the season that was last year, right? I just remember this time last year, we were falling apart. The wheels were coming off. Ja was hurt. BC was still out. We were falling apart. The only consistency was Jaren Jackson Jr., and we're reaping those benefits this year with how well he's been playing. But I see where everybody's kind of their mind is going. It's like we're on that roller coaster, and we feel like we're coming up to that point of last year where everything just falls and we have all these injuries. But take heart. I don't think we have anything that's that bad outside of Marcus Smart. Marcus's finger is kind of the one that makes me nervous just because of how intricate that pulley system is in there. He has a tear of his extensor hood, and I won't nerd out too much on it, but that extensor hood kind of rests on top of your finger here, and it keeps everything in alignment to where that pulley system can work. And if you played any kind of basketball, you know that you need your fingers to help control and guide the shot. And if your index finger is hurt and has a tear like Marcus's does, shots are going to be painful. They're going to be errant. And you're not going to be able to control them as much. But outside of that, I think everything else is very recoverable. I think that's a term. I'm making it up. I don't know. It's something that can be healed. And I don't think any of them are going to be catastrophic in season ending. So I'll kind of go in order of return to play of who I think will come back first. First up, Zach Edey. He's in concussion protocol. We see that more in contact sports. You know, we think he took an errant elbow from me seeing that dunk. We saw it on film. We think that that's what caused the injury. But according to some people on these Twitter spaces, the front office is responsible for these injuries. And so Zach Kleiman or Robert Parra could have been the one that socked Zach Edey in the eye, caused a concussion. We'll never know. But I think we get Zach Edey back sooner than later. He's probably more like day-to-day. Concussion protocol based on how you're feeling. There's some testing that is going to be there, some cognitive testing, some balance, some vertigo-type testing to make sure that the athlete is ready to compete at a high level. It is just going to be how Zach Edey feels. You know, he's already 7 foot forever, so he's up there where the air is a little bit thinner, so he doesn't need anything else, holding him back. So I could see this being very short term. Obviously not playing against Phoenix on New Year's Eve, but I can see him coming back by the end of the week, at least with a doubtful or a questionable designation. It all just depends on how the big man from Purdue is feeling as he's progressing through the protocol. Again, they're testing him daily. They're asking him questions. They're checking his ocular or eye reflexes. They're going to be doing a lot of balance assessment, running just to see how he feels. If you've ever had a concussion, and I had a few playing football back in the day, it's really weird. Each one's different. It's not like we're healing muscle or ligament or tendon. Your brain is just a fatty mass, and everybody's is going to heal differently. There's literally no way to predict how he's going to heal versus how I healed versus how Tua Tagovailoa healed for the Dolphins. Like, everybody's different. And so I don't think it's too bad of a concussion because he was able to play the rest of the game after that elbow to the face. I just think they're being very cautious with him, which is not a bad thing when we're a team that's injury prone. I hate to use that term, but it is what it is. But we're still sitting 22-11 through 33 games after missing an NBA most 155 games collectively by our injured players. So I think Zach Edey's back first. Next up is kind of hard to tell. I honestly could see Gigi and Vince coming back in the next couple of weeks as well. I know they've been kind of slow playing it. Our last update was like 4 to 6 weeks for Gigi, and we were like 2 to 4 weeks away from Vince, and that's been about 2 or 3 weeks ago. It would not shock me if we woke up to a Grizz PR notification that said they're doubtful and that they're progressing well. We've had pictures. Gigi has been in practice, in full practice gear, practicing with the team and getting his feet underneath him. But with that fifth metatarsal repair, you got to be careful. There's not a lot of great blood flow to the outside of the foot. It's something that could easily be re-injured. So, Gigi could be the next one back after Zach Edey. He also could be the last one back. Like it depends. And I hate that term, but it's very much a thing in sports rehab, return to sports. It just depends on how the athlete is responding. The fifth met head is a very common injury for runners because of that repetitive, like banging of your foot on the ground, for lack of a better term. And in basketball, they run and jump a lot. So there's a lot of stress on the outside of that foot. So being cautious is a good thing. But I could see Vince and Gigi be the next ones back. We all know about Vince. I've talked about it on here before with that ankle sprain. So with that, I think that Jake and Santi would kind of be in that next tier. I think they're both kind of, we know Santi's week to week. Jake's didn't look that bad, so I wouldn't be surprised if he's week to week. And if it's anything like Zach Edey's when he was week to week earlier this year, that's probably 3 weeks of missing basketball. Again, it all depends on how they're responding. You know, rehab is going to be working on trying to get the swelling down, pain under control, and reestablishing what's called neuromuscular control of the ankle. And I could nerd out about it, but I'm not. It's basically learning how to use your ankle and where your foot is in space again. Because to put it in layman's terms, when there's a lot of swelling and compression on that joint, your brain kind of wigs out and doesn't know where your foot is in space. So that's why the injury, re-injury risk is pretty high. Because typically when you jump, your brain knows where your feet are. And then when you land, it's perfectly fine. But if there's anything kind of compromising that through, swelling or pain or strain on the ligament, your brain's going to kind of get weird and it may turn a little bit, and then you can re-injure it as you land. You combine that with some weakness and it's a recipe for disaster. So that's why they kind of slow plan. That's why you wear a brace while it's healing, so that you can control it and give it some stability when your muscles and your brain don't have that. I could see both of them being like a 3-week type injury. If it goes well, rehab goes well, they don't have swelling or pain like Edey did when he first tried to come back, and they gave it another week or so to see. I don't think Santi and Jake are going to be out all that long. But the reason you're here, Ja Morant. The two injuries that have scared us the most, Ja Morant and Brandon Clark. I'll get to PC in a minute. But Sunday was a tough day. We woke up to the news that we'd missed out on DFS, that he is now a Laker. Then you combine that with Ja Morant having an AC joint sprain, and Grizzlies Twitter was in shambles. I saw a lot of wild takes and tweets about Ja being injury prone and needs to be traded. Again, our front office is going to continue to hurt people until we get some changes. Like it was the Wild West. But we got great news yesterday. It's a grade 1. So your AC joint is the top part of your shoulder joint. Its main purpose is it anchors your shoulder blade and your collarbone, again, to give you some stability in that shoulder and then allow your scapula to move up so that you can reach all the way up overhead. Without it, your humeral head or the top of your arm bone would crash into the top of your shoulder joint, your collarbone, and your shoulder blade, compressing your rotator cuff. Pinching it is called impingement syndrome. Not fun, no bueno. It hurts. Grade 1 essentially says that when Ja ran into that screen, I'm not even going to say the bum's name because he doesn't deserve the time of day, but when he runs into that screen, that joint compressed and it pinched that ligament that runs from your collarbone to your shoulder blade. A grade 1 means it's just swollen in there. There's no tearing. There's no fraying. It's going to heal and it's going to go well. Ja kind of tipped that when he was shooting one-handed on the broadcast coming back from halftime in the OKC game. When I saw that told me this is nothing bad. This is not long-term, because if it had truly been a grade 2 or 3, that would have hurt like crazy. And Ja was smiling, laughing, and joking while he was shooting. Ja Morant's going to be fine. It's one of the more common sports injuries, ankle sprains, AC joint sprains. They happen a lot, more so in contact sports, obviously, because the compressive forces on it or if you fall on it. But Ja ran into a tough screen and hit at the right angle and pinched his AC joint. Again, Ja is probably going to be week to week, maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks at the most, just depending on how he responds. A lot of rehab is going to be down here below, shoulder height, keeping that thing nice and safe. A lot of isometrics to reactivate some of those muscles, like with the ankle. If there's swelling in there could be some cause for some impingement or faulty mechanics. So we need to work on trying to control that swelling through dry needling, ice and e-stim. Again, immobilizing is not a bad thing for the AC joint. Because that shoulder is so mobile, that AC joint's constantly moving, keeping it still for a few days is not a bad idea. But grade 1 is great because, again, it's just pinching and swelling in the tendon. Grade 2, you start getting a little bit of fraying. 3 is where you start seeing some rupture, and 4 is where it's completely torn. Thank God it's a grade 1. We'll get Ja Morant back sooner than later. We can all take a deep breath. Brandon Clark strained a soleus muscle, and not a lot of people know what that is, but your calf muscle is 2 muscles. You got your gastroc on the outside. That's the one we train at the gym to make it look all nice and pretty, and it gets big and bulky. Your soleus is the broad, flat muscle that combines with that gastroc to make your Achilles tendon, and it attaches just below the knee. So it was initially called knee soreness, which tells me that the strain is more in the muscle belly up closer to the knee, which is easier, honestly, to rehab because you can work out a muscle belly strain pretty quickly. Sometimes when that strain and that swelling gets in a tendon, it's harder to rehab. It's harder to get out because your tendon is non-contractile tissue. It doesn't contract. It's just pulled on and acted upon by the muscle belly. Sorry, I'm trying not to get too nerdy here, but with it being knee soreness, that's a good thing, right? Because the soleus is part of the Achilles that he ruptured in his left foot last year. I'm sure there was kind of like an oh crap moment in his mind where he felt some of that in his calf again. But thankfully it's not as bad. And a guy like Brandon Clark, who's super bouncy and jumps a lot, like it makes sense that it's going to be some overuse. Because of that left leg being the one that was surgically repaired last year, I wouldn't be surprised that it's overuse because he's been favoring it and pushing off on that right leg a little bit more. It's natural tendency to protect the one that you've had a major surgery on. So Brandon Clark overusing that right leg is not surprising. It is a little bit that it's this far out. But now it gives us some time to heal and figure that out. And we can work on some training for Brandon Clark to be jumping off of both feet, jump off the left foot a little bit more. So we're not overusing that right leg. Again, it's not the end of the world. It's a muscle strain, and it sounds like a pretty small one. I don't think he's going to be out. Most strains heal within 4 weeks, so I could see him being back to basketball activities within the next 4 to 6 weeks, and I know that sounds like a terrible timeline, but listen, that gets us to All-Star Weekend. That puts us in February when we should be full strength again anyway. And so I look for them to be a little cautious with Brandon. Like, it's not the end of the world. Yes, he could be back playing basketball in 3 to 4 weeks. It could be 5 to 6 weeks, just depending on how he heals and how comfortable he feels getting back out there running and jumping again. Again, it's not the end of the world. It could be worse. We've seen him rupture his Achilles. It's not that bad. But it could be if it's left unchecked and unbridled. So they're going to, slow him down, stand him down for a little bit, rehab this soleus. I'm hopeful it's 3 to 4 weeks, but don't be surprised if it's more like 4 to 6, just depending on how he heals. Don't take that as the end of the world. Again, it could be sooner than that. But given our history, given his history, don't be alarmed if it's a little bit more cautious in his return to sports. Hey, listen, don't let Grizz PR be a nightmare for you. If you see something, if you have questions, hashtag Ask Dr. Buckets. Put it out there. Tag me in it, buckets_BCM on Twitter. Let me know your questions. I'm happy to help prevent crash outs, talk you off that ledge. Every Grizz PR notification doesn't have to be the end of the world if it's an injury update. Let me know how I can help. I've been in sports rehab, like I said, for 11 years now. I'm here to help and help us all get through these injury bugs. When we get healthy, and I feel like we've been saying that now for 3 calendar years, this team's going to be really good. Again, we're 33 games, we're 22-11 with a combined 155 games missed due to injury. This team's going to be fine. Ja Morant's going to be fine. BC is going to be back to his ways sooner than later. When we do, watch out because we're already second place in the Western Conference with all these injuries. I can't wait to see what turns out when we are finally healthy. But let me know how I can help. Buckets_BCM on Twitter, and go Grizz.